these are pretty nice looking leaves, and it just freshens up the plant a bit. I've got grass growing into the flower beds into my sweet woodruff, so I have to hand pull all of that out. Hey everyone, so my plan for this Saturday's video was to plant the broccoli and cabbage in the garden and a lot of the spring seeds, but the weather doesn't look like it's going to be that great. We had quite a bit of snow on Easter and it's just not nice out. So I'm going to wait till next week to plant those and do that video. So instead I thought this week I would do a video on my two garden totes and kind of how to plant a garden. My garden is quite a bit more extravagant than most people's gardens need to be, or maybe even you might not even want them to be this extravagant. Extravagant being that I plant a lot of stuff. Now this is because I have the space, I have the time, and I really enjoy gardening. And it's something that I'm working into having a really extensive, beautiful space, and it's taking a lot of time, and I want it to take a lot of time. So by no means do you need this many seeds or this many plants or this many of anything, but we'll kind of go over that here in a sec. I just wanted to explain to you my garden space, because it is kind of a wreck. If you've been watching any of my videos, you know where it started and how it all came about, and my future plans for it are very formal. It's a very formal picture in my mind, but it'll take, I'm on year 3 now, and I'm just now starting to get permanent raised beds and permanent ideas. I wanted to be in the space for a couple of years before I started making anything really permanent. But I will go through and kind of explain my process to you. So, here we go. So the first thing you want to do when you're starting to plant your garden is get a catalog. This is Spring Burgess Garden Catalog. And be fair warned, if you have at all a little bit of garden bug, these are extraordinarily dangerous. Because they send them at the time where you're so sick of winter and you're like, I want to grow everything. What's kohlrabi? I have no idea, but let's grow it. You know, anyway, get yourself a garden magazine. They're very easy to come across. I just start flipping through it and make a list of the things you might like to plant. Like this was my list for this year. I think there's 24 different plants on here, and then some flowers and some other things. But like corn, asparagus, tomatoes, peppers, onion sets, onion seeds, radishes, carrots, broccoli, so on. And you start making your list, and then you kind of go through your book and you start kind of figuring out how long they take to mature. What's your growing season? So each plant that you want to grow will have a growing season. Like radishes take 25 days to mature from seed to edible radishes. That might be a little long, but average 25 days. So that's a really quick crop. Carrots take more like 70 days. Looking down through my list here, pumpkins take like 115 days. So you got to figure out how long your growing season is. And my growing season is relatively, well, I'm not going to say relatively short because I'm sure there are a lot of shorter growing seasons out there. But my projected last spring frost for 2020 is May 17th. And I always look that up, and you can find that in your Farmer's Almanac for your area. And May 17th is supposed to be our projected last frost. So that was when everything is really safe from frost to plant. And then my earliest frost date, like the fall frost date, is projected to be September 23rd. And your Farmer's Almanac will list both of those things. So that kind of gives you an idea how long your growing season is, and when you need to start your seeds indoors in order to have like an actual plant to plant when your last frost happens. So once you got it figured out, which items you kind of want to grow, how long their growing season is, and how long your specific growing season for your zone is, then you can go ahead and start thinking about how much space you actually have to plant in. Now, when I say garden zone, that is something you can also Google. And it's, I'm in, this part of Nebraska is zone 5A, so it's relatively cold. We have fairly good frosts. But you can look that up, just put in your zone for your area or your zip code. It'll ask you a lot of different ways. You can even just look at the zoning map and it'll tell you. And then that's also where you discover if you have perennials versus annuals. If something will survive your winter and come back the next year is if it is perennial in your zone. But anyway, so we're going on to space. So the way I figure space, and I have done some container gardening, some window gardening, some just like small yard gardening, but this is my first big garden, and I have a lot of space. Actually, I have so much space these last 2 years that I've decided to downsize it this year and take better advantage of the space that I have, and then because we're wanting to adjust some of the things in the yard. And we need a little bit more space in the yard, a little less garden. So I'm readjusting everything just a touch. But what you do is get yourself a piece of paper, and I'm going to show you guys these. And I'll pop them up on the screen. This one was, let's see. Yeah, this one was my plan for last year. And I did do it very close to this. A few of the things didn't actually go on. A couple of the boxes. And then this one was my projected, what I drew in January, what I wanted my garden to look like if I could find all the different pieces and get it together by the time I needed to plant, which didn't happen. And then this one is my plan as of today, because I hardscaped a lot of the boxes. Hardscaping being their like permanent structures now, as in they will still be there next year full of dirt ready to plant in. So you've got your list of things that you want to plant. You've got it figured out whether or not they're going to grow in your zone, how many days they need, and then you want to go into companion planting, like things that go better with other things. And you can just search companion garden planting in Google. I'm not going to go into it aggressively right now because it's huge. It's a lot of information on it. But the one that I wrote down for myself this year for my garden was I had a lot of trouble with aphids and I had trouble with cabbage worms last year. So some of the things, if you don't want to like spray chemicals, or if you don't have access to a lot of things that you can spray on your plants to get rid of those things, you can plant other things, companion plant to just either distract or deter the pests that you're dealing with. So like my cabbage worms, I discovered that they don't like garlic, tomatoes, onions, or rosemary. So I'm going to be planting, where I plant my cabbage, I'm going to plant a tomatoes and a few onions because I already have those things. So I can go ahead and just plant those for their sole reason to deter the cabbage worms. So I'll probably start those from seeds instead of sets or plants. And aphids don't like sunflowers. I don't remember if they don't like them or if they're attracted to them, but either way, they keep it off of your actual plant. Like my pepper plants get aphids every year, and I'm not sure what they love about them so much. But sunflowers, basil, and marigolds are good ones to distract aphids. Okay, let me see where else we've got. Alright, so then the next thing, so you've got it all figured out, what plants kind of like what plants, and you don't need a lot of space. You can plant a tomato plant and then plant something around the base of it, or you can plant like a root crop and above ground crop together. So like an above ground crop would be corn, or tomatoes or peppers, something that grows above the ground. And then underground would be like carrots, onions, garlic, something that grows low, lettuce, spinach. You know, so you're using up both levels of space, or you're using up the underground space and the above space. But then you can go through and do it by month. So what you're going to plant per month. So like I've got April, May, June. I don't know if I plant anything in July probably. August, September, October, you're going to fall crop, you're going to plant garlic. But like in April, I wanted to plant my potatoes, asparagus, onions, peas, radish, spinach, lettuce, carrots, and watermelon seeds, which is something I've never started that early, which might be why I never actually get a ripe watermelon. So I'm going to give that a go. So basically all you have to do is decide what you'd like to plant and what you're going to plant together and what you have to plant it in. And if you're having a big space, draw it on paper. If you just got containers, figure out how to best use your space. Gardening is very, very simple. It's basically just put it in the ground, water it, watch it, make sure it's not getting too wet or too dry or has bugs. Can't hardly fail at gardening. It's pretty fun because it's not aggressively hard. So I thought I'd go through my garden boxes and show you what's in those, just for kicks and giggles. And I might even show you my gardening plan for my garden this year. So among everything else that goes in this box, along with my seed starting kits and all of my tags and everything, woo, come back here, seeds. I keep my seeds. And this looks like I have a problem, is what this looks like. But in my defense, I was walking through one of my local stores last fall, almost winter, and I noticed they still had a seed display, like kind of in the back corner. And I asked them if they would sell me the whole thing for a discounted price, and they did. So I was like, major score, but I've got enough seeds to do my garden this year and probably next year, which is fantastic because they don't really, as long as they don't get wet and you keep them out of the sun, they'll be fine. And I don't know, I'll use quite a few of them this year. Y'all, my garden is not just for me and my husband. I also share my vegetables with his aunt and uncle, my husband's family, his folks, his sister and her husband, my family. I share a lot with the community. If I have extra, they go to the local food bank, and I also sell vegetables. So I feel like I have enough of an excuse to have this many seeds. I just went through and put them together while I was figuring out what I had to actually plant. I need a bigger bucket. In this one I have all the seeds that I have saved from previous planting years. And this one has a hole in it. Wow, that's keeping the seeds in there well. So I've got peas, corn, beans, pumpkins, more peas, summer squash. These are pansies, these are marigolds. These I have no idea what they are. They're a surprise seed. These are acorn squash, these are summer squash, and these are miniature pumpkins. And that's pretty much everything I've saved. I saved a lot more the year before. I had a whole massive bunch. And then when I planted things last year, I had a lot of really strange things happening in my garden. Evidently I had some cross-pollination and some seeds that were not, I think the word is heirloom seed. If you harvest the seed from them, you're guaranteed to get the same produce again. Which there are two varieties of seeds that do that and seeds that don't. And I think I saved quite a few seeds that actually don't grow the plant that you originally started with, which was an interesting new concept to me. I know little to nothing about any of that. But I'm going to plant quite a few of these again this year, try to use them up and see what we get, because I mean, they're not doing me any good in the jars. Okay, so this is what the hardscape of my garden looks like now. So this is the north side, and this right here is a solid windbreak that is not going anywhere. I love it there. It blocks so much wind, so much weather from my garden, and it makes it nice to sit. This is the square box of wood planks that we had last year, that it has strawberries in the one side that are coming back. This is the horse tank without the bottom that we had over here last year that I planted asparagus in, and I have no idea if the asparagus lived through the winter or not, but I moved the box and put some more dirt on it, so I'm not really expecting them to come up. These are the two long wood slab boxes that we built last season. They're over here now. This tank, big round tank that my husband brought in, we filled with dirt and stuff in the last video. I put right here in front of the sitting area, because this is where I like to sit. And this one we did it at a kind of a cockeyed angle, because everything in this is at an angle. There's nothing that is really straight, which makes it kind of hard to have a formal garden when nothing is straight. But as long as the angles are, I figured as long as it was at an angle that it didn't look like it was trying to be straight, but it was on purpose angled, cockeyed, that it would be more pleasing to the eye. This little guy over here is where my rhubarb is, and it is coming back. This here is a cherry tree, and this is a mulberry tree. These dots out here are where the boundaries of my garden last year and the year before were. I actually have a couple of trees out here that are going to be moved in closer. There's a cherry tree here and an ornamental, I'm not exactly sure what it is, tree. It starts with green leaves and goes to purple in the fall, that are going to be moved in closer. So this is going to be fenced out, hopefully this year. I'm really holding out hope that it gets fenced this year. And this is basically the hardscape. So then let me add the plants on top. So same thing. All I did was copy this on the copy machine and then add the extras. So this lopsided circle here is another rusty old horse tank that we haven't brought over here yet. It's about twice the size of this one. I'm hoping it'll go right here if we get it over here. And then in the fence line here, I'm going to add a trellis to grow pole beans. In the corner, I want to do carrots. Here, lettuce and spinach. This space is where I like to sit. So I'm going to make a couple of nice sitting chairs to go here. I would like to do a trellis of peas on the back side of this, and then I have 25 strawberry plants ordered. They are on their way. I think they will go here. In this one, since there's already some strawberries coming back from last year, I'm going to add the broccoli, cabbage, and some onion seeds, and probably a few tomatoes into that box. Since those are the things that I already have growing, I'll just keep it all in one spot for the rest of this month and next month, so then, you know, most of my plants will be in one place. For watering, my rhubarb comes up here. I think I'm going to do the radishes here in this box. Potatoes, marigolds, and bush beans. Here I have quite a few potatoes ready to, ordered, bought, need to go in the ground. I think they're going to go in the one that's already ready to roll. And then I have quite a few onion sets. We really enjoyed the onions from last year, eating them all summer, using them, eating them, and then keeping them all winter. I used the rest of those a couple months back. So I'm excited. I'm decided to plant about 3 times as many this year. I'm going to do 3 rows of corn over here. And then the new water hydrant is going to go in the middle here somewheres. And then of course I'll have to figure out where I'm going to plant tomatoes, peppers. I'll figure that out once we get into the warmer months and all of this is already in the ground. We'll see what kind of space we have left. This is my wish list that I made in January when I got my seed catalogs. And I just go through and I figure out what things I really liked out of it. Then I price it. And this is just how many it is so that if it's double, I can double the price when I go through. So then I just figure out each one, and then I go through all of the seed catalogs and write down things. And then if things duplicate, a lot of the times, like pumpkin seeds from Burgess will be an extraordinarily different price than pumpkin seeds from Seeds and Such, or Guernsey seeds. You just have to check your prices per catalog. And I did not order all of these seeds. This was just something I like to do. I like to plan and figure out. And then I went through, once I had all this list and everything, I went through the seeds I already had and figured out what was missing. So I didn't order all of this. In fact, I just made one order, and I do believe I ordered from Burgess. Yeah. I ordered from Burgess, and I did not get all of these things. I changed my mind several times in the process. So yeah, that pretty much sums up my seed planning, garden planning video. I'll put summary up here because I know this was a little bit scattered. It's just, my brain is a little bit scattered when it comes to gardening. I usually get out there and get my hands in the dirt and get my seeds all lined out and start planting things, and then things change. And that's okay, because that is one of the beautiful things about gardening. You can just get started and see where it takes you. So, hope you're having a wonderful gardening season. If you need any more inspiration, you can keep watching my channel. Please subscribe so that you don't miss a video. Or one of my favorite inspirational YouTube channels is Garden Answer, so you can look them up as well. I'll put the link in the description box.